Ambassador stood before the viewing screen in his ship's observation deck, watching the blue and green planet slowly rotate below. Earth, the humans called it, a beautiful world, peaceful from this distance. He felt confident about this mission. After all, he had successfully made first contact with 47 different species over his long career. Humans would be no different. The Galactic Council had detected their first faster-than-light ship 3 weeks ago. Standard protocol required a diplomatic mission within 30 days. In species, were known throughout the galaxy as the best diplomats. They were gentle, herbivorous beings who had not known war for over 10,000 years, perfect for welcoming new species into the galactic community. Ambassador, we're receiving a transmission from Earth Orbital Station, his communications officer announced. They're welcoming us and offering docking clearance. IN's translator device processed the human language instantly. They sounded friendly enough. Accept their invitation. Prepare the diplomatic team. As his ship approached the orbital station, IN noticed something odd. The station was clearly civilian, designed for trade and tourism, but surrounding it were dozens of military vessels, heavy ones. The weapons systems alone seemed excessive for a species that had just achieved interstellar travel. The docking procedure went smoothly. When the airlock opened, IN got his first look at humans in person. 3 of them waited in the docking bay, wearing formal uniforms. They smiled widely, showing their teeth. IN felt his heart skip a beat. Those teeth, sharp canines designed for tearing meat, and their eyes both facing forward like a predator's, tracking movement with unsettling precision. He forced himself to remain calm. Many species had predator ancestry. It didn't mean anything. Welcome to Earth Orbital Station, the middle human said, extending her hand. I'm Secretary of the United Earth Government. We're honored by your visit. IN had studied human customs. He reached out and shook her hand, trying not to think about how strong her grip was. The hand of a creature that could grab and hold prey. Thank you, Secretary. I am Ambassador IN of the Collective, representing the Galactic Council. We're here to establish peaceful relations with humanity. That's wonderful, said, still smiling. We've been hoping someone was out there. Come, we've prepared a reception for you and your team. The reception hall was impressive. Humans had decorated it with plants and soft lighting, clearly trying to make their guests comfortable. But IN couldn't stop noticing the details. Every human in the room had that same predator's stance, balanced and ready. Their conversations were punctuated with laughter that showed those sharp teeth. Even their children, playing in a corner, were engaged in what looked like a hunting game. Tell me about Earth, IN said too, trying to focus on his diplomatic duties. Your world seems quite diverse. His eyes lit up. Oh, it is. We have every kind of climate you can imagine. Deserts, rainforests, frozen tundras, oceans covering most of the planet. Humans have adapted to live almost everywhere. Impressive adaptability, IN noted. Another predator trait. Adaptability meant these beings could survive in any environment, could hunt anywhere. And your people, are you unified? We are now, said. It took a long time. We spent most of our history fighting each other, to be honest. Wars, conflicts, all kinds of struggles. But about 50 years ago, we finally came together as one planet. The United Earth Government represents all nations now. Fighting each other. IN felt a chill run through his body. His species had never fought among themselves, not once in recorded history. The very idea was incomprehensible too. Over the next few days, IN's team conducted standard assessments. They interviewed humans, studied their biology, reviewed their history. Each discovery was more alarming than the last. His chief medical officer, doctor, presented the biological findings first. Ambassador, their physiology is extraordinary. They have redundant organ systems, 2 lungs, 2 kidneys. They can survive losing significant amounts of blood. Their bones are incredibly dense, designed to withstand impact. They heal rapidly from injuries that would be fatal to most council species. And their endurance, in asked. Unmatched, replied, clearly disturbed. They evolved as persistent hunters. They can run for hours, days even, tracking prey until it collapses from exhaustion. Their bodies cool through sweating, one of the most efficient heat regulation systems I've ever seen. They can function on minimal food and water. They need only 6 to 8 hours of rest per day cycle, and some can manage with less. In absorbed this information with growing dread. Everything about humans was designed for one purpose: to hunt, to fight, to survive against all odds. His cultural specialist and had even worse news. Ambassador, I've reviewed their history. It's nothing but warfare. Bronze Age, Iron Age, medieval period, Industrial Revolution. Every advancement in their technology was accompanied by new and more efficient ways to kill each other. Their literature glorifies warriors. Their entertainment simulates combat. Even their sports are ritualized versions of hunting and fighting. What about their current era? In asked hopefully. Secretary mentioned they've achieved peace. An's expression was grim. They call this their most peaceful time in history. Do you know why? Because they haven't had a global war in 90 years. 90 years, Ambassador. They consider that an achievement. Regional conflicts still occur regularly. They maintain massive military forces on every continent. Every nation keeps soldiers ready at all times. Surely they must have some peaceful traditions, In insisted. They do, and admitted. They value family, friendship, art, and music. They're capable of great compassion and creativity. But Ambassador, even their compassion is warrior-like. They have a saying, no one fights harder than a human protecting someone they love. Their very capacity for love makes them more dangerous, not less. In spent a sleepless night reviewing the data. The psychological profile was perhaps most troubling. Humans possess something the psychologist called aggressive problem-solving. When faced with obstacles, their first instinct was to overcome them through force or determination. They could be diplomatic, yes, but diplomacy was a learned behavior for them, not a natural one. The next day, In requested a tour of Earth itself. Secretary seemed pleased and arranged for him to visit several locations. New York, Tokyo, Nairobi. Each city was vibrant and beautiful, full of humans going about their daily lives. But everywhere he looked, In saw the signs. Military recruiting posters on walls, children playing with toy weapons, monuments to fallen soldiers in every park, museums dedicated to war history. Even their news broadcasts casually mentioned conflicts and military operations as if they were routine weather reports. In Tokyo, took him to a martial arts demonstration. Humans in white uniforms practiced elaborate fighting techniques, moving with grace and precision. The crowd watched with appreciation, even admiration. This is one of our traditional arts, explained. These techniques have been passed down for over 1,000 years. We teach them to children for discipline and self-defense. Self-defense. In watched a child no more than 10 years old execute a perfect throw, sending their partner tumbling to the mat. The child smiled and helped their partner up. Friendly, kind, and utterly capable of violence. Secretary, In said carefully, may I ask you a personal question? Of course, Ambassador. Have you ever had to fight, physically I mean? His expression became distant. Yes, I served in the military before entering politics. I was deployed to 3 conflict zones. I've seen combat. And yet you chose diplomacy as your path. Because I've seen combat, corrected gently. Ambassador, humans don't love war. We're good at it, I won't deny that. We're very, very good at it. But most of us would rather talk than fight. We just know that sometimes talking isn't enough. That evening, In composed his report to the Galactic Council. He chose his words carefully, knowing they would cause alarm. Distinguished council members, he wrote, I have completed the initial assessment of humanity. My recommendation is immediate quarantine of the Sol system until further evaluation. This species represents an unprecedented situation. They possess predator biology, warrior psychology, and technological capability. Their entire evolution has been shaped by conflict. They are, without exaggeration, born ready for combat in ways no council species can match. While they show capacity for peaceful cooperation, their fundamental nature is that of fighters. I believe allowing them unrestricted access to the galaxy at this time would be premature and potentially dangerous. He transmitted the report and waited. The response came within hours. The Council agreed with his assessment. Humanity would be quarantined, not as punishment but as a precautionary measure. They needed time to observe, to understand, to determine if humans could truly coexist with species that had long ago evolved past violence. And delivered the news to Secretary personally. He expected anger, outrage, even threats. Instead, simply nodded. "I understand," she said quietly. "We must seem terrifying to you. We forget sometimes how different we are. Most humans grow up thinking everyone is like us, you know. We assume the universe is full of fighters." "It's not," In said. "The council species have known peace for we've evolved past such things." Smiled sadly. "We're trying to evolve too, Ambassador. We've come so far, but I understand you need to be sure. We'll respect the quarantine. We'll stay in our system. But Ambassador, I hope someday you'll understand something about humans." "What's that?" "The fact that we're good at fighting doesn't mean we want to fight. Sometimes the strongest warrior is the one who chooses peace." She extended her hand again. "I hope we'll meet again, Ambassador, under better circumstances." And shook her hand, feeling that powerful grip. As he returned to his ship, he wondered if humanity would accept their isolation peacefully or if their warrior nature would drive them to break free. Either way, the galaxy had been put on notice. Humanity had arrived, and nothing would ever be quite the same. 3 cycles passed. In Galactic Council terms, that meant roughly 3 Earth years. The quarantine held, and humanity respected it. They stayed within their system, though their ships occasionally passed through the barrier to trade at the designated station. The Council watched them carefully, waiting to see if they would mature into a more peaceful species. Then the came. The first attack happened at the Outer Rim, hitting a mining colony on Vex Prime. The colony had a population of 3 million, a species of peaceful engineers who had been mining rare minerals for Council projects. When the distress signal cut off after only 10 minutes, the Council assumed it was a technical malfunction. They sent a peacekeeping vessel to investigate. The ship never reported back. A week later, 3 more colonies went silent. Then an entire system. The Council finally sent a full investigation fleet, 12 ships with state-of-the-art sensors and weapon systems designed for deterrence. They found the swarm feeding on what remained of the colonies. They were supposed to be extinct. 10,000 years ago, they had terrorized the galaxy until the ancient empires finally drove them into deep space. They were a hive mind, a species of insect-like warriors that consumed everything in their path. The Council's history called them the Great Terror, the nightmare that united the galaxy in its only major war. Now they were back, and the Council was unprepared. The investigation fleet engaged and lost half its ships in the first battle. The surviving vessels retreated, broadcasting desperate warnings. Within days, the Council convened an emergency session. Sat in the Council chamber, listening to reports that grew worse by the hour. They were spreading fast, their numbers seemingly endless. 6 systems had fallen, billions were dead or missing, and the Council's forces were failing. "We need to mobilize our full military," someone suggested. "What military?" Another Council member responded bitterly. "We have peacekeepers, not soldiers. We haven't fought a real war in 10,000 years. Our ships are built for patrol, not combat. Our crews have no battle experience." "Then we train them quickly." "Train them with what knowledge? Who among us remembers how to fight?" The chamber fell silent. The truth was undeniable. The council species had evolved into peaceful beings. They had spent building cultures around art, science, philosophy, and trade. War was something they read about in ancient history, not something they practiced. And stood slowly. There is one species that remembers. Every eye in the chamber turned to him. "You can't be serious," someone said. "The humans, the species we quarantined because they're too dangerous." "That's exactly why we need them," In replied. "We quarantined them because they're warriors. Now we face an enemy that only warriors can fight." The debate lasted for hours, but desperation won in the end. The council voted to lift the quarantine temporarily and request military assistance from humanity. In volunteered to deliver the message personally. When his ship entered the Sol system, he was surprised to find Secretary waiting for him at the same orbital station where they'd first met. She looked older now, more lines around her eyes, but her grip was still strong when they shook hands. "Ambassador In," she said, "I heard about the attacks. I'm sorry for your losses." "You know why I'm here," In said quietly. Nodded. "You need help, military help." "Yes, I know we have no right to ask after quarantining your species, but we're desperate. They are overwhelming us. We don't know how to fight them." "But we do," finished. She was quiet for a moment, then smiled sadly. "Ambassador, humans have a saying, you don't get to choose when you become a soldier. You only get to choose what you're willing to fight for. 3 years ago you were afraid of us. Now you need us. That must be difficult." "It is," In admitted, "but my pride matters less than the billions of lives at stake." "Then let's talk to Captain Sarah. She's our best combat commander, and she happens to be my daughter." The meeting took place aboard the UES Defiant, humanity's warship. Captain Sarah was younger than her mother but had the same sharp eyes and confident bearing. She listened to In's briefing without interruption, studying the tactical data on the movements. "They're using swarm tactics," Sarah said. "Classic overwhelming force strategy. They hit hard and fast, don't give you time to regroup. And you said your ships are designed for deterrence." "Yes, we have weapons, but they're meant to discourage aggression, not engage in sustained combat." Sarah looked at her tactical officer, a veteran named Commander James. "What do you think?" "Studied the data carefully. We can work with this. The council ships have good shields and sensors, better than ours in some ways. But their weapons are defensive, their crews are untrained, and their doctrine is all wrong for this kind of fight. We'll need to integrate our forces, put human commanders in key positions, and completely retrain their crews." "Can we do that fast enough?" Sarah asked. "We'll have to, but Captain, there's another problem. The council species, they're not built for combat the way we are. Psychologically, I mean. They're going to freeze up under fire. They're going to hesitate when they need to act. That gets people killed." Sarah turned to In. "Ambassador, I need you to be honest with me. Are your people capable of fighting, really fighting, not just defensive posturing?" In felt shame wash over him. "I don't know, we've never had to." "Then we'll find out together," Sarah said. "I'll take a battle group to the front lines. We'll coordinate with your forces and see what we're working with. But Ambassador, I need full authority to make tactical decisions. If your commanders second-guess every order in the middle of a battle, we'll all die." "You'll have it," In promised, "whatever you need." The human fleet arrived at the Vela system 2 weeks later. The council had established a defensive line there, trying to prevent them from pushing deeper into council space. 12 council warships faced an estimated force 3 times their size. Sarah's battle group consisted of 8 human vessels, smaller than the council ships but bristling with weapons. She immediately took command of the combined fleet and began repositioning the council ships. "You're exposing our flanks," a council captain protested over the communication channel. "I'm creating kill zones," Sarah corrected. "The attack in waves. We're going to funnel them into overlapping fields of fire, trust me." The attack that night, if the concept of night meant anything in space. They came in massive swarms, their ships looking like a dark cloud spreading across the stars. The Council crews panicked immediately, breaking formation despite Sarah's orders. "All Council vessels hold position," Sarah commanded. "Do not break formation." But they did. Years of peaceful evolution without violence left them unable to stand firm in the face of that terrifying swarm. 3 Council ships fled. 2 more tried to engage on their own and were quickly surrounded. The human ships held their ground. "Take your squadron and cover those idiots who broke formation," Sarah ordered. "Everyone else, focus fire on the lead elements. Show these bastards what real weapons look like." In watch from his ship as the humans engaged it was like watching a different species fight. The human ships moved with precision, their weapons firing in coordinated patterns that carved through the swarm. Where Council ships fired one weapon at a time, saving energy and ammunition, the humans unleashed everything at once. Missiles, plasma cannons, all firing simultaneously. Squadrons swept in to rescue the fleeing Council ships, laying down covering fire that gave them time to retreat. But one of those ships, the Harmonious Dawn, was already surrounded, and watched in horror as boarding craft attached to its hull. "Harmonious Dawn is being boarded," someone reported. "Can you assist?" Sarah asked. "Already on it, Captain." Ship, a smaller destroyer called the Anvil, accelerated toward the stricken vessel, preparing boarding teams. "You're going to board a ship full of," and couldn't believe what he was hearing. "It's what we do, Ambassador," replied calmly. In access the feed from Harmonious Dawn's internal cameras. The crew were trying to fight, but they had no experience with close combat. They fell back, panicking, as warriors tore through the corridors. Then some Marines arrived. 20 humans in powered armor stormed through the breach, and everything changed. They moved through the ship like they had trained for this their entire lives, which they probably had. Every movement was efficient, every shot precise. They didn't hesitate, didn't freeze, didn't panic. They simply fought. One Marine, his armor scorched and damaged, held a corridor alone while the crew evacuated behind him. He was smiling, realized with shock, actually smiling as he fought off 3 warriors at once. That Marine was himself, and watched as the human commander fought with a combination of weapons fire and hand-to-hand combat, using every tool at his disposal. When his rifle ran empty, he used it as a club. When it got too close, he met it with a combat knife. The crew reached safety, activated something on his armor, and an explosion ripped through the corridor, taking out the remaining. He had set charges while fighting and realized, planning his exit even in the middle of combat. "Harmonious Dawn is secure," reported, breathing only slightly harder than normal. "Their crew is scared but unharmed. They're going to need counseling, Captain." "Noted in your report," Sarah said. Then she addressed the fleet. "All ships that are retreating, do not pursue, reform defensive positions and prepare for medical evacuations." The battle was over. They had been driven off, though not destroyed. But the cost was clear. 3 Council ships were heavily damaged, and 1 had been lost before the humans could intervene. The human ships had taken damage too, but they had held the line. In requested permission to board the Defiant. Sarah granted it immediately. When he arrived, she was in the command center, reviewing battle damage reports. Stood beside her, his armor removed, a bandage on his shoulder. "Ambassador," Sarah greeted him. "That was rougher than I expected. Your crews, no offense, they're not ready for this kind of fighting." "I know," In said quietly. He turned to, "Commander, I watched you fight. You saved Ambassador Ohm's life. The Harmonious Dawn is his ship." Shrugged, "Just doing my job, sir." "You were smiling," In said. "While fighting for your life, you were smiling." Looked uncomfortable for the first time. "Yeah, well, combat does something to humans. We get an adrenaline rush, our bodies release chemicals that heighten our senses. Some of us, we get a kind of euphoria from it. It's not that we enjoy killing. It's more like our bodies are celebrating that we're still alive. You're designed for this, In said. Everything about you is designed for combat. Yes, Sarah said simply. We are. And now you understand why we've been trying so hard to be more than that. Because being good at something doesn't mean it's all you are. She pulled up a tactical display showing the entire front line. Red markers indicated positions. Blue markers showed council forces. It looked hopeless. We're going to beat them, Sarah said. But Ambassador, we need to train your crews. Really train them. They need to learn to stand their ground, to fight through their fear, to trust each other in combat. That's going to take time we might not have. Then we'll make time, In said. Whatever it takes. Good. Sarah smiled, and for the first time In didn't see a predator's grin. He saw determination, courage, and hope. Because humanity didn't come all this way just to watch the galaxy burn. If you need warriors, Ambassador, then warriors you shall have. And we'll teach your people to be warriors too. 2 years. That's how long the war against the had lasted. 2 years of brutal fighting, of losses and victories, of council species learning to fight and humans learning to teach. The galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. In stood on the bridge of the Defiant, now his permanent station as liaison to the human fleet. He barely recognized the council forces anymore. Mixed crews worked together, humans and aliens side by side. Engineers collaborated with human tacticians. Diplomats trained in combat medicine. Pilots flew alongside human squadrons. Admiral Sarah, promoted after her decisive victory at the Battle of Station, stood at the command console studying the final target. The primary hive, the source of the swarm itself. Intelligence suggested the hive queen was located there, coordinating all forces across the front. Final status report, Sarah ordered. Fleet is at full strength, reported. He was a major now, commanding the entire Marine contingent. 300 ships mixed human and council forces. All crews report ready for combat. Diversionary forces in position, Sarah asked. Confirmed. We have strike teams hitting 18 different locations simultaneously. That should draw off most of the swarm. Sarah looked at In. Ambassador, this is it. If we succeed, we cut off the command structure. If we fail, we lose half our fleet. The Council needs to be sure about this. The Council is sure, In said firmly. End this war, Admiral. Sarah nodded and opened the fleet-wide channel. All ships, this is Admiral. 2 years ago, most of you had never fired a weapon in anger. Now you're the finest fighting force I've ever had the honor to command. Today we finish what the started. Today we take the fight to their home. Remember your training, trust your crews, and stay frosty. Out. The fleet engaged their faster-than-light drives. Within minutes, they dropped into the home system. It was like jumping into a nightmare. The system was dark, the star itself obscured by swarm ships so numerous they blocked the light. And at the center, the hive itself, a massive organic structure that pulsed with unnatural life. Contact, someone shouted. Forces incoming, Vector 773. All ships defensive formation Delta, Sarah ordered calmly. Let them come to us. The swarm toward them, but something was different this time. The Council crews didn't panic. They held their positions, weapons ready, waiting for the order to fire. 2 years of training, of fighting alongside humans, had changed them. They were still afraid, fear was natural, but they had learned to fight through it. Fire, Sarah said simply. The combined fleet opened up with devastating precision. Council ships provided heavy shield support and powerful energy weapons. Human ships contributed missile barrages and kinetic weapons. Together, they carved through the swarm like a knife through soft meat. But there were so many. For every ship they destroyed, 2 more appeared. The battle quickly became a brutal grind, ships trading fire at close range, boarding actions erupting across multiple vessels. This was the kind of fight humanity excelled at, chaotic and violent. But now the Council forces fought alongside them, holding their own. "Admiral, we're detecting something from the hive," the science officer reported. "Energy readings are off the scale. I think the Queen knows we're here." "Take your team and hit that structure," Sarah ordered. "Find the Queen and neutralize her." "Copy that, Admiral," assembled his strike team, a mix of human Marines and Council volunteers who had trained for 2 years for moments like this. And watched them board their assault ship, weapons ready, faces determined. The assault ship dove toward the hive, dodging swarm ships and defensive fire. And tracked their progress from the Defiant, his heart's pounding. They reached the hive's surface and cut their way inside, disappearing into the organic structure. "Status?" Sarah asked after 5 minutes of silence. "We're in," replied, his voice strained. "This place is bigger than we thought, corridors going everywhere. We're tracking what we think is the Queen's signal, moving to engage." "Be careful, Major." "Always am, Admiral." In access, the helmet camera feeds from the strike team. They moved through twisted corridors of organic material, fighting off drones. The Council volunteers fought bravely, using tactics they'd learned from their human teachers. One soldier covered a wounded human Marine, returning fire with surprising accuracy. An engineer rigged explosives to seal off pursuing. They reached a massive chamber. At its center, surrounded by hundreds of drones, was the Hive Queen herself. She was enormous, easily 20 meters long, her body pulsing with the neural connections that linked her to the entire swarm. "Target acquired," reported, preparing to engage. "Wait," Sarah said suddenly. "Hold your fire." "Admiral." Sarah was staring at her screens, analyzing the data streaming from the hive. "Look at this. The Queen's neural patterns, they're not aggressive. She's afraid, terrified actually." "She's trying to kill us," pointed out. "No, the swarm is trying to kill us. But look at the Queen's individual signals. They're defensive, panicked. She's controlling the swarm out of fear, not aggression." It moved closer to Sarah's display. She was right. The patterns were unmistakable once you knew what to look for. The Queen wasn't attacking because she was evil or aggressive. She was attacking because she thought she had no choice. "Can we communicate with her?" In asked. "Maybe," Sarah said thoughtfully. "I'm sending you a communication protocol. Try broadcasting on the Queen's neural frequency. Tell her we're not here to destroy her. Tell her we want to talk." "Admiral, with respect, that's insane." "Major, do it." Sighed, "Yes, ma'am." There was a pause, broadcasting now. On the helmet feeds, and saw the drones suddenly stop moving. They stood motionless as if frozen. Then slowly they began to back away from the strike team. A voice filled the communication channel. It was alien, multi-layered, like thousands of voices speaking at once. But the translator processed it into something understandable. "You speak," the Queen said. "You are not prey." "We're not prey," said carefully. "We're people just like you. We don't want to fight anymore." "But you must, all must. Space is empty. Resources are scarce. Fight or die. This is the way." Sarah activated her own communication link to the Queen. "That was the way, but it doesn't have to be anymore. The galaxy has changed. There's enough for everyone. We have food, resources, territory, more than we need. You don't have to fight us for survival." "Lies," the Queen said, but her voice wavered. "The void is hunger. The void is death." "The void is big," Sarah countered. "Big enough for all of us. We have planets that could support your species. We have technology that can provide food without hunting. We have knowledge that could help your people thrive without war. But you have to stop attacking us. If we stop, you will destroy us." "If we wanted to destroy you, Major would have already done it," Sarah said. "He has weapons aimed at you right now, but he's not firing. Do you know why?" "No." "Because we're strong enough to choose mercy. That's what real strength is. Not just the ability to destroy, but the wisdom to know when not to." The chamber fell silent, and held his breath, waiting. The fate of the galaxy hung on the Queen's next words. "Show me," the Queen said finally. "Show me this galaxy of plenty." Sarah smiled. "Lower your weapons. Ambassador in, prepare a cultural package. Everything the Queen needs to see to understand the Council. History, resources, treaties, everything." Over the next hours, while the fleets held their positions in an uneasy ceasefire, the Queen learned. She absorbed information about the Galactic Council, about trade routes and resource sharing, about species living together peacefully. She saw planets full of food, systems rich with minerals, civilizations that had thrived without constant warfare. Finally, she spoke again. "This is real, this galaxy you describe." "It's real," In said, speaking for the first time. "And you can be part of it. The species doesn't have to be the enemy. You can be part of the Council, trading instead of raiding, building instead of destroying." "Why would you let us?" the Queen asked. "We have killed so many of you." "Because these humans taught us something," In said. "They taught us that the strongest warrior is not the one who wins every fight. It's the one who makes peace when they could make war. They could have destroyed you. Instead, they're offering you a future." "We evolved in scarcity," the Queen said quietly. "For millions of years, we fought for every resource. Our biology, our psychology, our entire civilization is built around competition and survival. Can we change?" "We did," said. He had lowered his weapon, standing openly before the Queen. "Humans evolved as hunters and warriors. We fought wars for thousands of years. We nearly destroyed ourselves more than once. But we changed. We learned. If we can do it, so can you. And if we fail, if our nature overcomes us, then we'll deal with it," Sarah said. "But we'll give you the chance. Everyone deserves that." The Queen was silent for a long moment. Then she began to hum, a sound that resonated through the entire hive. Across the system, the swarm began to withdraw. Ships pulled back, drones stopped attacking, the entire war machine ground to a halt. "I accept your offer," the Queen said. "We will try your way. We will learn to live without war. But understand, this will not be easy for my people. We will struggle. We will make mistakes." "We all do," Sarah said gently, "but we'll help you through it." The war ended not with a final battle but with a conversation. The peace treaty was signed 3 weeks later in the council chambers. The Queen attended remotely, her massive form displayed on screens while human, council, and now representatives worked out the details. In found himself standing with Sarah and at a reception after the signing. They watched as council members mingled nervously with drones, everyone trying to adjust to this new reality. "Thank you," In said quietly. 3 years ago, I was afraid of humanity. I thought you were too dangerous to join the galaxy. I was right about the dangerous part, but I was wrong about what that meant." "We're not special," Sarah said. "We're just good at a particular thing. Combat, warfare, violence. That's our gift and our curse. But it's what you do with your gifts that matters." "You could have exterminated In noted. At any point in that final battle, you could have fired on the Queen, but you chose to talk instead." "Because we've been where they are," said. "Stuck in our nature, thinking violence was the only answer. It took us thousands of years to learn better. Maybe we can help them learn faster." "The Council wants to offer humanity a permanent seat," In said. "Not just membership but a leadership position. You've earned it." Sarah considered this carefully. "We'll accept on one condition. The galaxy can't just rely on humans to do all the fighting. That's not healthy for anyone. We'll be your defenders, yes. We'll train your forces and lead them in battle when necessary. But we can't be your only warriors. Everyone needs to be capable of protecting what they love." "Agreed," In said. "We've learned that lesson. Peace is precious, but it must be guarded." "There's something else," Sarah added. "We don't want war to define us anymore. Yes, we're good at combat. We were born ready for it, trained by evolution and history to be fighters. But we're also artists, scientists, philosophers, dreamers. We want the chance to be all those things too. You will be, in promised. The galaxy needs warriors, but it also needs teachers, and you've proven to be both. Months later, In visited Earth for the first time since the war began. He toured the rebuilt cities, met with human leaders, and visited a military academy where young humans trained alongside young, and even a few. Instructor was teaching a class on tactical ethics. The question isn't whether you can win a fight, told his students. The question is whether you should fight at all. Being ready for combat means being ready to defend what matters, but it also means being wise enough to know when defense is necessary and when it isn't. A young raised its hand. Instructor, my people attacked yours. How can you teach us now? Smiled, because you're not your people's past. You're their future, same as all of us. We're all trying to be better than what evolution made us. And walked out to a memorial that humans had built on Earth's moon. It listed every species that had died in the war, arranged not by but alphabetically. Human names mixed with names, even names. They had died together, and now they were remembered together. At the base of the memorial was an inscription. In read it carefully, and for the first time fully understood what humanity had been trying to tell him from the beginning. We were born ready. We learned to be willing. May we never forget the difference. Being born ready for combat didn't make humans monsters. It made them capable. What they chose to do with that capability, that was what mattered. They could have conquered. They could have destroyed. Instead, they protected, they taught, and they showed mercy when they didn't have to. As In looked up at the stars, he realized the galaxy was lucky. Not because it had found warriors when it needed them, but because it had found warriors who understood that strength without wisdom was just violence, and wisdom without strength couldn't protect what mattered. The humans were born ready for combat, but they had learned to be ready for peace too. And in teaching the galaxy that lesson, they had proven themselves worthy of the trust placed in them. The stars shined down on the memorial, and In thought about the future. A future where warriors could become peacekeepers, where predators could become protectors, where species born for violence could choose compassion instead. It wouldn't be easy. There would be more conflicts, more struggles, more times when the galaxy needed warriors to stand and fight. But now they would face those challenges together, humans and council species side by side, learning from each other and growing stronger together. The age of isolation was over. The age of cooperation had begun, and at its heart stood humanity, born ready for combat but choosing to be so much more.